Welcome to One Chapter, One Thought. I'm Pastor Chris from Lincroft Bible Church in New Jersey, and every weekday I read one chapter of the Bible and offer one brief devotional thought. Today's reading is from the book of Genesis, chapter 35. Then God said to Jacob, "Get ready and move to Bethel and settle there. Build an altar there to the God who appeared to you when you fled from your brother Esau." So Jacob told everyone in his household, "Get rid of all your pagan idols, purify yourselves, and put on clean clothing. We are now going to Bethel, where I will build an altar to the God who answered my prayers when I was in distress. He has been with me wherever I have gone." So they gave Jacob all their pagan idols and earrings and buried them under the great tree near Shechem. As they set out, a terror from God spread over all the people in the land, so no one attacked Jacob's family. Eventually, Jacob and his household arrived at Luz, also called Bethel in Canaan. Jacob built an altar there and named the place El Bethel, which means God of Bethel, because God had appeared to them there when he was fleeing from his brother Esau. Soon after this, Rebekah's old nurse, Deborah, died. She was buried beneath an oak tree in the valley below Bethel. Ever since, the tree has been called Alon Bakuth, which means Oak of Weeping. Now that Jacob had returned from Paddan Aram, God appeared to him again at Bethel. God said to him, saying, "Your name is Jacob, but you will not be called Jacob any longer. From now on your name will be Israel." So God renamed him Israel. Then God said, "I am El Shaddai, God Almighty. Be fruitful and multiply. You will become a great nation, even many nations. Kings will be among your descendants, and I will give you the land I once gave to Abraham and Isaac. Yes, I will give it to you and your descendants after you." Then God went up from the place where he had spoken to Jacob. Jacob set up a stone pillar to mark the place where God had spoken to him. Then he poured wine over it as an offering to God and anointed the pillar with olive oil. And Jacob named the place Bethel, which means house of God, because God had spoken to him there. Leaving Bethel, Jacob and his clan moved on toward Ephrath, but Rachel went into labor while they were still some distance away. Her labor pains were intense. After a very hard delivery, the midwife finally exclaimed, "Don't be afraid, you have another son." Jacob was about to die, but with her last breath she named the baby Ben-Oni, which means son of my sorrow. The baby's father, however, called him Benjamin, which means son of my right hand. So Rachel died and was buried on the way to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. Jacob set up a stone monument over Rachel's grave, and it can be seen there to this day. Then Jacob traveled on and camped at Migdal Eder. While he was living there, Reuben had intercourse with Bilhah, his father's concubine, and Jacob soon heard about it. These are the names of the 12 sons of Jacob. The sons of Leah were Reuben, Jacob's oldest son, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. The sons of Rachel were Joseph and Benjamin. The sons of Bilhah, Rachel's servant, were Dan and Naphtali. The sons of Zilpah, Leah's servant, were Gad and Asher. These are the names of the sons who were born to Jacob at Paddan Aram. So Jacob returned to his father Isaac in Mamre, which is near Kiriath Arba, now called Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac had both lived as foreigners. Isaac lived for 180 years. Then he breathed his last and died at a ripe old age, joining his ancestors in death. And his sons, Esau and Jacob, buried him. One thought. God's plan of salvation moves through the storyline, through the covenants that he makes with people. A covenant is this bond that makes two people like family, and this bond is ratified or supported by promises and responsibilities by the different parties. And so we see that God makes a covenant, or he's in a covenant relationship with Adam at the very beginning in the garden. Adam is like the son of God, not literally, but in this covenant relationship because he's made in the image of God. And Adam has the responsibility given to him to be fruitful and multiply. And so this responsibility given to Adam was to spread the glory of God over the face of the earth like the waters cover the sea. And so Adam was to live in a way that imaged God, and he was to move out from the Garden of Eden and sort of spread the borders of Eden across the face of the earth. Unfortunately, that covenant is broken because of Adam's sin, and God curses the world and curses Adam with death. And so God, though, continues to move his plan forward through the covenant that he makes with Noah. And we see the same language showing up in Genesis 9, verses 1 and 7, where God tells Noah, "Be fruitful and multiply." And so Noah has come through the flood on the ark. God has cleansed the world of most sin because most people have been destroyed. And God is now reaffirming this covenant that the earth will be a stable place now for his plan to roll forward. And Noah is to be responsible in this covenant relationship and be fruitful and multiply. And as the storyline moves along, God then chooses one man, Abraham, and enters into covenant with Abraham. And Abraham is given various responsibilities in this covenant, but we see that this imperative to be fruitful and multiply sort of morphs into a promise to Abraham, because God says that his descendants will be like the stars in the heavens and the dust on the earth. And so God is saying that he is going to make good on this responsibility, that Abraham needs to be fruitful and multiply, but God will make sure that it happens. And we see the same lingo happening here in Genesis 35. This covenant that God makes with Abraham has been passed to his son Isaac, and now this covenant that God has made with Abraham and Isaac is being passed on to Jacob. We see the first indications of this covenant in the fact that God renames Jacob Israel. And so this echoes back to God renaming Abraham and Sarah in covenant relationship. And so Jacob is renamed, and then God gives him the same responsibilities: be fruitful and multiply, in verse 11. And so it is through Abraham's family, the true humanity, that God is going to redeem the world. And so Jacob has this same, now Israel has the same responsibility. So Jacob's family is in covenant with God and now should live like it. The people of God have been blessed to be a blessing to others. And this promise to be fruitful and multiply is also picked up in the New Testament, but the New Testament transforms it, where it's not a literal biological command anymore, it's spiritual. The New Testament talks everywhere about bearing fruit, which means making disciples or spiritual offspring, so to speak. And so how are you bearing fruit and multiplying in the gospel? Who is someone that you're investing in to make disciples? We are people of the new covenant and still called to be fruitful and multiply by making disciples.